Good day and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I'm your host, the voice of reason. So in this video we're going to conduct another update on the Tigray Ethiopian Eritrean conflict and just kind of give you an update of what we believe is going on the ground. So first off, there are reports coming in that TDF forces have secured the town of Samre. Well, we believe that Samre has actually been under the control of the TDF for some days now. And it is highly likely that the town of Gidget is also under the control of the TDF, the Tigray Defense Forces. But we also believe that the TDF controls approximately 40 to 60% of Tigray. The Ethiopian Defense Forces and the Eritrean Defense Forces can only control what they are currently sitting on, so to speak. So if they have forces in a certain town, well, they control that town, but those forces do not stay in that town indefinitely. And the problem right now, the strategic problem from the Ethiopian Defense Forces side of things, is that movement inside of Tigray is becoming very difficult for them. For instance, the road that leads from Samre up northeast, if you can just follow where I'm heading here, to Mekelle, is almost a no-go zone for them. It's very difficult for the Ethiopian Defense Forces to travel along these roads, and they've stopped doing it. They are focusing more on main arteries of supply and trying to keep those defended as well. We've also received reports, and this is a common military tactic in some areas of the world, in which Ethiopian Defense Forces, some of their supply convoys are now being attached to civilian supply convoys in hopes that they will not be attacked. And this, I don't believe this will prevent some of those convoys from being attacked, unfortunately, in terms of the possible loss of civilian life. But what is the strategy of all three sides? Because I think all three sides obviously have very different motives. The Ethiopian Defense Forces, the Eritrean Defense Forces, and the TDF, the Tigray Defense Forces. So I think also the Eritrean Defense Forces, their goal, their aim, is probably going to start diverging from the Ethiopian Defense Forces war goal or war aim. And I think eventually Eritrea is going to look at attempting to firmly take control of the northern part of Tigray, and that would be maintaining control of Adigrat and Axum and Shire, and that would extend obviously all the way up towards the shared border around the Badme area. So if in fact the Eritreans can maintain control of these areas, Eritrea would probably come out, would be initially the bigger winner, so to speak. Then you have to look at Ethiopia. What is their goal? Are they going to keep a very large force posture centered in Mekelle with other bases around Tigray? I believe that is what they are going to try to do. At the same time, they're going to try and root out TDF elements inside of the country. They've been focused on going after TDF leadership, and their belief is if that leadership is taken down, then the TDF would inherently start to dissolve. But that is simply not the case. As leaders are killed or imprisoned, new leaders take their place. And in some cases, these new leaders are more aggressive than the original leaders that were in place. And the United States had the opportunity to experience that, especially with the Islamic State, and even certain issues with the Taliban in Afghanistan. So no correlation, obviously, but just in terms of a general military strategy and how things normally fall into place in terms of as leadership changes. But what is the TDF strategy? What are they looking to do? I think they're doing exactly what they intended to do from the start of the conflict. I think it was to melt away into the rural areas of Tigray, have large elements of Ethiopian forces that are simply unable to sustain themselves, be deployed inside of the country, and the TDF would then look to eventually, through attrition, break the will of the Ethiopian Defense Forces. And as I had discussed in some very earlier videos, you could quickly see the Ethiopian Defense Forces, the morale collapse, the ability to feed itself in terms of the supply situation degrade to where forces just give up and leave. And I think we saw that inside of the town of in the areas around Samre. There was a surrender of Ethiopian forces in this area, and it doesn't look like these forces were actively engaged in combat. None of them seemed to be wounded or anything of the sort. They were all standing erect, and it looks like they just they kind of gave up. They just looked downtrodden. They looked worn out, and possibly not getting enough food, enough rest, just the simple ability to be comfortable for a period of time, and not being used to that. If you're a new soldier, a young soldier, and these soldiers appeared to be new and young and probably not properly trained, they were broken and they simply surrendered. And you can see that on a larger scale as well. And of course, Ethiopia does have some very good military units. Inside of Ethiopia proper, the initial offensive into Tigray was launched by fairly competent units that were very well trained, reasonably well equipped. But a lot of times the Ethiopian government is not going to keep those forces in an area where they will start to degrade. You will have follow-on forces that will come in and kind of take their place, such as what occurred around Samre. So you probably most likely had a lesser experienced unit come into the area to conduct what it thought was just going to be an occupation type of operation, and it found itself in the a hornet's nest, so to speak, and it could not deal with what it was, the operation that it was given, so it surrendered. But I think ultimately, in terms of the TDF, eventually, I know we keep talking about, is the TDF going to launch an offensive on Mekelle? Yeah, I think that is going to occur. Maybe not in a large scale offensive, but more of a reconnaissance in force and infiltration type methodologies. But I think the real goal of the TDF may in fact be a look southward. And if you have the ability to infiltrate into your enemy's home area where they believe that they were safe, and when the enemy finds out that in fact they are not safe, well, they're going to have to start diverting more forces back towards the homeland areas where they believed that those areas were safe. So could we start seeing raids by the TDF into southern Ethiopia? I think that would be a sound military strategy from the point of the TDF. I think ultimately Ethiopia may have the resources in terms of human capital to keep personnel inside of Tigray for an extended period of time, although it will wither. I think ultimately the TDF, from a strategic point of view, may in fact look south.